Tim Heron, Interim Supervising Planner, Bureau of Development Services for the Design Review and Historic Review section. Design Review. What is Design Review? Design Review is part of a process of permitting for Bureau of Development Services. In a way, we could call it the pre-permitting function of the city, where a land use review proposal will come in the door and we will review it against specifically approved design guidelines in different sub-districts of the city. The guidelines themselves were created as a part of a public process, engaging the citizens of any specific area or the city in whole, put together and formed into a booklet that we have available and handouts, also available online, where we have pictures and examples of what the goals of those guidelines are set to achieve. Some of those goals might be a certain type of building type or quality or certain materials in a district. It may even go so far as to encourage a permanence in how it's applied inside a specific district. Ultimately, these guidelines are approved by council, and part of the job of myself managing a group of 13 to 14 planners and architects and historic preservationists is to implement those guidelines fairly and consistently across the city. Public input is gained through a process in which we will either send out notifications on different proposals. So if a specific project comes in the door, we will look at the application, put it together in a notice of proposal, and mail that out to specific neighbors, neighbor associations, or even larger areas depending on the scope and size of the project. And from that, we have a certain time period in which we'll wait for comments. Some projects, if they're large enough, they'll go in front of a public hearing. Those projects will actually have the site posted by the applicant themselves to let people know where the hearing is going to be and their opportunity to comment with any concerns that the proposal might bring for them, or also if they support it and to show their support for that development proposal. That's basically how we get the word out. Generally, we're also available online. Specific planners are assigned to specific cases, and they're of course available throughout the work week to answer any specific questions that the public might have. Our public process for these reviews will occur with every application that comes in the door. So depending on the busyness of the city and as far as development proposals, we could be doing as many as 300 a year is what we pulled in last year as far as new applications for projects. Now these applications could be as remote or small as a new awning in a historic district to as grand as a new full-size 30-story skyscraper on a full block development, say the South Waterfront District, where there's been a lot of new development recently. And the scale of new reviews in that will range from both of those extremes. As of late, our process and projects have been slowed down as a result of the economy, which is of course being experienced throughout. And we have also responded to that in terms of the type of cases we've gotten and not been as large, not as many full block developments, but we've gotten more and more smaller scale developments recently where it actually has required more staff time because a lot of these smaller applications do tend to require more interaction both with the public but also with the applicant. One of the things that we're doing as a result, in part because of the downturn in the economy, we have been re-looking at our process. And what we want to do in this time is an opportunity to focus on some of the areas that we feel we could do better at. Part of looking at, though, is engaging our customers. And our customers are both the citizens, but they're also architects and developers. They're property owners that may have come in for design review once. They may be owners that are frequent flyers, if you will, that come into design review on a regular basis. And what we will create from these design review forums is an opportunity to streamline our process. One of the challenges with design review is having an expectation of predictability and when an application comes in the door, and what a person could expect to hear from this review process and what will come out in the end. That can be challenging because design review, as I mentioned, scopes from an awning to a full block tower. It's a very wide range. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is the fact that we do work in historic districts, and many historic districts or landmarks often have a certain set of expectations specific to those areas that are often very different from design review. And that's another important aspect of what we do. The forums, which we will be doing towards the end of April and early May, has something that we have done in the past, typically every 3 to 4 years. It's been about 5 or 6 since we've had our last one, where we will have a public setting. Our Commissioner Randy Leonard, will be present. Our Director of the Bureau of Development Services, Paul Scarlett, will be present, as well as liaisons from the Commissioner's Office and myself. And we intend on engaging the public on a larger scale, probably looking at the last 2 years of all applicants that have come in through design review and historic design review, and invite them to participate in these forums. The forums will basically be focused around this concept of design review and how it can be better. We want to hear, without bias, anyone that has any concerns with the process, what they experienced, what they felt they should have experienced, and how we can improve that process, and how we can improve the predictability of that process and what the expectations are when they go in. I hope that's the net result of the end of that. I'd also say that these forums will likely occur on a more regular basis, and I think going into these now at the end of April and early May will be an opportunity to ask that question itself, is how often would these be useful and how will they be helpful? And hopefully as a result we'll come out with some good constructive criticism that we could certainly implement some things immediately, and perhaps in the longer run some that might take some more layering of either regulation or adjusting of our zoning code, or even at the state level, changing some of those regulations so they're a little bit more streamlined and the public, our citizens, our customers can expect a little better on the front end when it comes out the back end. For someone that lives in they know they live in a design zone or in a historic district, their first call could certainly be downstairs to our Development Services Center, and that's our hotline, which is 823-PLAN, otherwise known as 823-7526. That could be your first contact to start a conversation. Ultimately, with a staff of 13, I am frequently the first contact. What that allows me, either by phone or email, is an opportunity to assign that question to any number of historic planner, an architect, or designer in their specific field to help you most immediately and most quickly with some quick answers to some preliminary questions you might have on your proposal. When you do come in the door, however, either before or even at the front end, we review those applications as soon as we're able and get you the information you need to help move you forward. If there is an opportunity to meet with you before you make application, we highly encourage that. We have early assistance appointments downstairs and on the first floor where you can have perhaps some preliminary questions, and for a small fee we will put together a formal written response for you based on those questions. Part of that will include a meeting where we can meet with you and talk about your project face to face. What we will do with that is that planner will also be your planner as you move forward to the next part of the formal part of the process, so you maintain that consistency of that person with your project throughout. And that's something that's embodied actually in our concept to construction paradigm, where as you work with one person through the city, you stay with that person throughout the life of the project. It helps consistency both from our end but also predictability from your end and working with that same person. And that's something we do in design review from typically the larger scale projects. However, with smaller scale projects you will still work with that planner throughout the process, and that should help make that process more smooth.